Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Maurice, and I'm a senior at DeKalb School of the Arts.
And I'm Trinity, and I'm also a senior at DeKalb School of the Arts.
And we're the hosts of The
Lunchroom,
where we discuss hot topics and keep students in the know about important information. So, Trinity, graduation is soon approaching us, ma'am. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's been a long 4 years
Heavy.
here, but I'm ready, and I'm going to run across the stage.
No, literally. So today is actually a very important topic because we're going to be discussing gun violence. Now, we know that this is a pretty sensitive topic for a lot of people, so we're just here to help and to provide any information that you guys may need. So today we have our guest, Chief Gober, who is the Executive Director of Public Safety. So welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And congratulations on graduation.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Gober, how would you say that gun violence is affecting our schools today?
Well, I think gun violence is actually affecting the whole country. You know, it's not something that's just exclusive to DeKalb County or DeKalb County schools, right? So DeKalb County has community schools. So whatever affects the community has an effect on the schools.
Right.
Looking at some statistics, you realize that we have over 400 million guns in this country. Now, that does include guns for police officers and military personnel. But if you take that away, 98% of the guns in the United States are owned by civilians, which leaves another 393 million guns in this country. To put that in perspective, there's 120 guns for every 100 people in the United States.
Wow, I didn't know that. So is it okay to have a gun on school property even if you're with your parent?
No, it's not. It's never okay to have a gun on school property. Even if you're a legal gun owner and you're on school property, we have a zero tolerance for weapons on school property. So we will ask you to go put the gun back in your car if you're a legal gun owner.
That definitely makes sense. So, so if you're somebody that's at school and you see somebody else with a gun, what would you say would be the best thing for them to do?
The best thing to do is see something, say something. We have a campaign here in DeKalb that you might have seen at your school in the posters, and that really does work. It's called See Something, Say Something.
So what is See Something, Say Something? And is there a number that somebody can call if they wanted any more information?
Yes. See Something, Say Something is a campaign that the DeKalb County school system it's been on to stop violence and guns in our school system. And we encourage students, teachers, even parents to call public safety, and the number of public safety is 678-676-1810. That number is monitored by a live person 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So you call that number, you'll always get a live person, and it doesn't matter what time. If you've heard something at home or on a Saturday and you think it's going to come back to the school, dangerous, please call that number where we can kind of intercede and prevent something from happening at school. I must say that I'm very proud of the students here in DeKalb because the See Something, Say Something campaign has worked, and we literally 95% of the weapons that we get out of the schools are because students tell us, because they are taking responsibility for their own safety.
So what is DCSD doing to keep guns out of our schools?
Well, the first thing that we're doing is education. We're trying to educate the students, the parents, and the faculty and the staff. With the See Something, Say Something campaign, along with education, is we want parents to talk to their kids about guns and the dangers of guns, right?
Yeah.
And we need to also teach young people, which are our students, right, our best resource, to learn to de-escalate conflict without using violence. Because guns are just tools. Now, they're tools of violence, but if we can teach our kids to solve their problems and solve conflict without violence, then the gun violence should then lessen, right? And we're also looking for weapons detection, not metal detectors now, because I know metal detectors is a sore subject with students and parents alike, right? But there is new technology now that they're using at places like the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and Disney that we're looking to try to bring here.
I know metal detectors make me feel like I'm at an airport, definitely.
Yeah, it's literally like giving me TSA vibes.
Yes.
So why do you think kids bring guns to school in the first place?
What we found is the majority of our kids bring guns to school for problems that are in the community. I've been executive director there for over 5 years. I started out as a school resource officer here over 20 years ago. And very rarely do we find kids that bring weapons to school with the intention to hurt other kids. A lot of them have problems in home, in the community. A lot of them have after-school jobs to where they have to take MARTA to maybe downtown and other places, and they're working late at night, and they have to come back and walk through their neighborhood, and they bring it because they feel like they need it for protection. Very rarely have we seen it where a student actually brings a gun to school because they want to try to harm another student. It's usually for things that are happening outside of school, and they feel like they need it for protection.
So if you do feel threatened, even walking home from school, being at school, how do you suggest that we protect ourselves without the use of guns?
Well, one of the things is you have to plan. And I think you guys are probably going to cover this later, but social media plays a large part in it, right? When groups of people or they have conflict, they kind of go back and forth on social media. You guys know this better than I do. And they kind of escalate the situation, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got to learn to de-escalate those situations ahead of time. And if you know that you got to walk through a dangerous area or an area you don't feel comfortable, you want to bring that up with your parents. And you can bring it up with teachers and social workers. Because even though we're the school police, we have a very good relationship with DeKalb County Police, Atlanta Police. And believe me, if you let us know that you're in a situation that you don't feel safe, even outside of school, we will make sure that we contact our other law enforcement counterparts to make sure you're safe outside of school.
I think that's very important. And what are the consequences of having a gun on school property or just in public or?
Well, on school property, if you have a weapon on school property and you're a student and you don't have a gun license, it will be a felony. And then we have zero tolerance for it. So you will go to jail. If you're 17 or older, you will go to the adult detention center in DeKalb County. If you're under 17, you'll be taken in juvenile detention.
Speaking of licenses, there is a new law being passed, being talked about not having to have a gun license in Georgia. How do you feel about that law? Do you feel like it's helping or hurting our community?
I personally feel that it's hurting our community. I understand that is the people that passed the law go back to the Second Amendment, everybody's right to bear arms. But you have to really look at the time and the era that law was put in, when our Second Amendment was put in. Not that many people had guns and they needed guns for survival, right? Now you have to modernize and understand that, we've got a lot of guns and there needs to be certain criteria that people need to be able to pass to carry a gun, just like a driver's license, right? With a car, you got to take a driver's test. Because it's dangerous driving a car. They just don't say, okay, here go the keys. You're 16, here, drive a car. So if you understand that, then you have to understand when we're talking about something as dangerous as a firearm, there should be a threshold for certain kind of test and regulations to make sure that the person that's carrying that is responsible.
I know I got an 80 on my driver's test. I don't know about you, Maurice.
Yeah. Oh, I got 100.
Oh, well.
I was not playing.
Good thing we're not talking about drivers. We're talking about guns. So my next question is DCSD one of the lower schools with guns, or are we more on the higher spectrum?
Now, I don't like to brag.
You can brag. It's just us.
Yeah, I don't like to brag, but we're on the lower spectrum when it comes to the other Metro Atlanta school districts. I do keep close tabs on that. And as it's trending, gun violence is all around us. But as it's trending now, our weapons detection is really not as high as some of our counterparts here in Metro Atlanta.
Okay, so if you're with your friend and they have a gun or a firearm, how do you kind of get yourself out of that situation while still staying safe?
Well, if it's your friend and you're talking about and they have a firearm, then you need to have a conversation about why they've got a firearm, right? Because at that point, you've got to be in control of your own personal safety. So if he or she has a gun, you have to ask yourself, why do they have the gun? Are they expecting trouble? Are they going to do something with the gun? And you don't want to be around if it happens, right? Because then you're dangerous. I mean, as I tell my children, I have high school age kids, and my parents told me, bullets don't have eyes. So, you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time and not be the target, but actually end up a victim of gun violence, right? So you want to make sure that you take your own safety very, very seriously. And another thing that people probably don't know, Georgia has one of the toughest laws if you are a party to a crime. And that means you're with somebody, right? And you don't have to know what they're getting ready to do. And they commit a crime and somebody dies in the commission of that crime, you also can be charged with murder. And you actually did not.
You didn't know what was going on.
No, you were just with your friend. And your friend did something with that gun, and then before you know it, you're being tried just as if you pulled the trigger yourself.
Wow. Speaking of
That's
safety,
harsh.
I know people have guard dogs. I have a guard cat. But I was wondering, do we have police dogs?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have 3 German Shepherds. We have 2 narcotics dogs, which can detect any type of drugs. And then we have an explosion detector dog that actually can detect the gunpowder that's in a bullet. That's how good his scent is. And so that helps us detect guns. And so when they go to your school, they can look at the locker or book bag, and if a gun or it's even been in a car or a book bag, and even if it's not there anymore, the trace elements of that gunpowder, the dog will detect it.
Wow.
Wow.
So did you have them since they were puppies, or they just came ready for work?
Well, we had them, I guess they were about 8 months old. And so the process that goes with that is we actually have a handler in North Carolina that most of the police departments in the South get their canines from. And so we enter into a contract with them, and we find an officer that is willing to be a canine officer, because it's if you got your guard cat, if you got a dog, and if you have a dog at home, you realize what a responsibility is. So these dogs actually go home with the officer. So they're with their families, 7 days a week. They have to take care of that dog, so it's a huge responsibility. So once we identify the officer that's willing to do that, we send the officer to this facility in North Carolina, and they match him up with a dog. And then they both get trained for 6 weeks.
Are they available for show and tell? I would love to see a guard dog.
Right.
Well, we do. We bring them to schools, and we can show you're at the DeKalb School of the Arts, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure they come by. That way you can see the
please.
dogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get the cameo visit.
Before May 18th, though.
Yeah, before you graduate.
So I know that in DeKalb, we have elementary schools and middle schools, and a lot of them, obviously they're younger. They have Nerf guns, BB guns. Are BB guns considered like an actual firearm, or?
That's a great question. And to the law, as far as it goes in Georgia, it is actually. Now, usually it gets played down, but if you bring a BB gun to school, any gun that shoots a projectile under the Georgia code section is considered a firearm.
Even water guns?
Well, not water guns. Not water guns and Nerf guns. And we usually let the administrators take care of that. But if you've got a BB gun or airsoft gun, you familiar with those airsoft guns, then you get charged and treated as if it was a real gun. And then at that point, we let the kind of courts deal with it. And the school kind of deals with you in the same way.
I know you were talking about metal detectors. Can you talk more about the new technology that comes with detecting those type of guns?
Yes. We are actually recommending to the board to do a trial at 7 high schools with a system called Evolve. And the Evolve system is sort of like metal detectors, but what happens, it works off of cameras and infrared technology, which means you don't have to stop and be searched, and you don't have to take your book bag off. You know how like you said, you're at the airport, how you got to take your bag off and your shoes off and put it on the belt, and then it goes through and it gets screened. Okay, with this system, you don't have to do that. So we literally put the system on both sides of the walkway where you come in at anyway, and you just walk through it. For most parts, a lot of schools won't even know it's there. And you walk through it, and then we would have somebody monitor a laptop that actually detects if a weapon is in the book bag, under your clothes, anything, and it literally takes a picture of you in the video, and it shows a square on the area where the weapon is, and then it sends a text message to the SRO, to the principal, and to our police department that this person has a gun and just entered the school, and then we can respond accordingly.
Wow.
So would the school possibly go on a lockdown?
Yes.
In that case?
Yeah, in that instance, the school would go into a lockdown until we were able to locate the person with the weapon and secure the weapon.
Speaking of lockdowns, I know there are different types of levels. So with guns, would it be more level 3, level 4? And can you explain the difference between the two?
Yes. Well, then you have your level 1, your level 2, and then your level 3, right? Your level 3 is going to be your most, hardened lockdown. So that means that the doors are locked, nobody in and out of the school, nobody in or out of the classroom. So that means where you shelter in place. If you have your lockdown drills, do you ever remember doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You literally shelter in place, the classroom door is locked, and they want everybody away from the doors and windows. Okay, a level 2 lockdown is where nobody in or out the school, nobody in or out the classroom, but the teacher keeps giving instruction while this level 2 lockdown is going on. So it doesn't interrupt your learning. So, and then a level 1 lockdown would be you can change classes and switch classes and everything of that in the hallway, but nobody's still allowed in the school or out of the school.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of the information you've covered today. This has been really, really helpful.
Yes,
Like,
it has.
I learned a lot. So yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but stay tuned for our next episode on
The Lunchroom.